All right, good to go. Thank you, Mark. That was fantastic, except for all the mentions of Gartner and no mentions of Nemertes. Darn. I'm just giving him grief. We do actually have some questions coming in, and just a reminder, folks, use the chat to submit questions. One has come in actually over the transom. Architecturally, how would we implement shift left with the checkpoint solution?
Yeah, no, thanks, Joanna. Good question. So, I mean, shift left in implementing it is actually can be done in a few different ways, and really, it's about how do you take and get that visibility early in the pipeline process. So it can be kind of done in a bunch of different ways, but I'll mention a few of them. So one way is actually just being part of the code scanning process. So as code's being developed and you're moving from either pre-production or staging, how do you actually take that code and scan it in real time and giving that feedback right back to the developer. So that's one way. Other ways, like we talked about in the presentation, is to actually scan templates and to get an idea of what the templates are doing and be able to impart security there. And then the third thing that I also mentioned as well is actually looking at the containers images themselves and scanning them. So doing that early before production is really the best practice there.
Okay, great. So yeah, and that comes back to doing your architecture first step in zero trust.
Yep.
Speaking of zero trust, how does the checkpoint solution instantiate zero trust? I mean, in what ways specifically, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, zero trust is such a big word, right, these days. I mean, like in 20 years ago, zero trust was like, this much of the conversation. And now it's like,
Well, it didn't exist 20 years ago. It really came out into 2003, really
yeah,
was the first. But anyhow,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
I guess that is almost 20 years ago.
it's
Oh
all,
gosh, I
I
need to go
know.
by.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, we're dating ourselves a little bit, aren't we?
no, I am. You're not.
Yeah. So no, but it is a really good question. So, when it comes to zero trust, I mean, I'll really hit it really quickly on two points, right?
Mhm.
The first point is that public cloud has come a long way, obviously, in those 20 years, whether we want to admit it or not. So you have concepts like gateway load balancers, where instead of having to have a network security approach that's very linear, you actually can steer traffic based upon like microsegmentation strategies and have products like Checkpoint or just security products to be able to inspect those certain areas and start to create that segmentation that you want in a way that's API driven versus the old way of having to route traffic inside the cloud, which is very 20 years ago. I would say the other part too that I think is even more modern, and I think it's really the better approach, is where you actually are leveraging native controls inside of the cloud platform to give zero trust. So what I mean by that is even what we talked about there in the presentation, is to take a specific, say, function and understand what permissions that function actually needs, and then providing feedback to the either the engineer or the security team saying, hey, this function only needs these permissions. Why does it have 10 times as many? And that way, every single time code gets executed, applications run, it has just what they need to accomplish the job versus maybe something bigger, because that's what threat actors look to really exploit, is the over permissions. So that's another way too that you can impart zero trust in a very easy way in your cloud-based deployments.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. And I know we're hitting the limits of Q&A.